Our next speaker is Carl Herman, and this is the second conference that Carl is speaking at, and his subject is an interesting one. It's Thomas Paine. And Carl, I want to ask you to, if you will say a few words on your background, the things that you would like the people to know here first, and that will get us along a bit faster. You want to walk around, a real pro. Wow.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Carl Herman. I teach AP Government and Economics at La Canada High School. I want to actually talk to you about three things. One, give you an update on what it is to teach monetary reform. Two, this is actually an apropos time to talk about the topics that you just did. For 18 years as well as teach, I was a political lobbyist. And I worked on a constant basis with our members of Congress and in the Senate, and my favorite strategy with their legislative assistants in charge of particular areas of policy. And then with Thomas Paine. Over the summer, for my advanced placement students, they had an assignment on monetary reform, which is in the back. Please feel free to take a look at it. I would also appreciate your peer review with any information that would improve the quality of the information. My experience in teaching monetary reform is I just wanted to share with you a couple of things that you might find useful in your communication as well. One, in the summer assignment, the first lesson that I gave was on critical thinking skills and to establish the current top professional and academic standard for evaluating the accuracy of claims, which we're making claims concerning an important policy. The top-rated standard is called prima facie, which is you just lay your facts out onto the table. Anybody can challenge those facts. If they find any problem with the facts, those facts may be removed. If anybody has facts that aren't in the presentation and you'd like them considered, they can present those facts. Prima facie, by law, will support a legal argument unless those facts are challenged. So, one of the ways that you can anticipate, I'm sure, argument in your own life of talking about monetary reform is that you'll get some person who really doesn't understand the argument complaining. And simply the top professional and academic standard is that they have no right to make any argument against the facts until they can refute the facts, which presupposes their understanding. So that's one way to keep the conversation direct and moving forward. The other is my older brother is a psychologist, and my brother Ken says, Carl, you're a hero for doing this, and you need to anticipate that a large percentage of the people you speak with, no matter how factually accurate you are, no matter how skilled you are, they're going to reject this because of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive, pardon?
Exactly.
Yes. Cognitive dissonance is that if your beliefs are so challenged by the facts, that you may reject the facts in favor of keeping your beliefs. How I've countered that as an educational strategy is that also up front I inform my students that we're going to work on prima facie evidence. Now, if they reject that evidence, those factual allegations without their refutation, in this particular instance, they are being cowards and liars. And I feel quite comfortable sticking to the dictionary definition of those words and telling that to my students. And they're welcome to go ahead and repeat that to their parents, because we're teaching the highest academic standards of evaluating factual claims. And importantly, as Stephen helped distinguish yesterday, this is not an ad hominem slur on their character. This is a specific academic and professional report on their statement concerning a particular policy, where for whatever reason they're uncomfortable with embracing facts, that's cowardice, and for whatever reason they are misrepresenting our best factual understanding of an issue, that's being a liar. On the website at La Canada High School, and the link is on the paper in the back, I also wrote background papers on the economics of ending poverty, on the Iraq and Iran war. And they also had an assignment with about 18 current events that really show the challenge to our Constitution and are the most expensive policies. and you're welcome to look at any of those and to use them as you see best. I wanted to give you a briefing on my experience of lobbying. I was a lobbyist with Results. Results started as a Los Angeles group, and eventually it grew to about this size. We became national and international into 7 countries. We have had thousands of volunteers donating millions of hours of their time. And we were instrumental in putting together at the largest meeting of heads of state in the world's history, the 1990 World Summit for Children, since eclipsed. We also were the main organization with the UN Microcredit Summit, which was the topic for the 2006 Nobel Prize in Economics, and Results is also the principal agency monitoring the success of microcredit. And I want to tell you that so this is a long time, 18 years, all right? I stopped doing it because after 18 years I concluded, I looked hard at the results we accomplished in 18 years. We had flowery rhetoric from our political leadership, both on the left and the right. And we had promises, signed documents at the United Nations. And all we received was token amounts of money in diminishing amounts. That history may or may not be useful for us. In terms of what was just talked about, I think one of the first questions that we would receive if we went into the congressman's office would be, oh, your constituents. No. They would receive the information, but I think the key thing to do is to have constituents in a group ask for a couple of specific things. And really my experience is that you want to be able to have a presentation where the member of Congress can say yes. And if Dennis is able to put the Monetary Reform Act into a bill, the question that we're asking the member of Congress is, will you co-sponsor this? And really the strategy that I would recommend is a briefing with the member of Congress where you got to hit your points, you got a couple of minutes to do it, and then you want the congressman to be able to understand what you said. You're going to have it in writing, you're going to have it in an outline form, and then you're going to ask the congressman quite politely, as you walk him through the information, okay, I want to make sure that you understand what we've been talking about here. Could you please tell me back your understanding of these 3 provisions we just talked about? And then ask for their co-sponsorship. For any of you who want to take this step, once we get it written into the proposed bill form, my favorite strategy was just calling up Congress, asking for the aide in charge of that area of policy, educating that person, and then having that person who meets regularly with a member of Congress work with them, ask for co-sponsorship, and then make sure that you are the person following up. In order to get a bill passed, you have to have political will. We don't have it right now. And we may be on a very interesting place where it will get, as Ken talked about, be worse enough for people to snap out of whatever it is that you would call their political participation at the moment, and to take acts of leadership. And that may happen. It would require leadership from members of Congress. Perhaps Mr. Hope for Change really will be on our side. I don't know. I think that we are having an explosion of information on the internet. Michael Hudson and Ellen have been stars with getting their articles on various internet sites that have really, and they're just one of many who are doing so, and that is an awesome contribution. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Ellen. I would also recommend a strategy of developing like a 2 to 5 minute YouTube presentation so that we could get younger people involved. And in particular, I would recommend that we get an economist, so maybe Norman or Michael, with a serious cost-benefit projection of what we're talking about for the public to understand. I've done an amateur attempt in my assignment. Let's see what else. Oh, for the 1930 Chicago plan, one of the big parts of that is that a survey was sent out to economists for their feedback, and what was it? It was like 80% in favor of the proposal, if I remember correctly. If we could contact economists and get their feedback, we can use that. We can generate a part of the website that would be economists for monetary and financial reform, have their little picture, their credentials, like a little paragraph statement of how they're for this, to begin to gained the political credibility for the Monetary Reform Act. I went into WikiQuote and started a WikiQuote section on monetary reform quotes. And we should also take a look at Wikipedia and edit that more and more towards our favor with data that would support the conclusions for monetary reform. Okay, Thomas Paine. Two things. One, Thomas Paine, as you know, in 1776 in January, he self-published Common Sense, which made the argument for the Americans to move toward revolution. And the Americans really were in a period of cognitive dissonance. This is 9 months after the fighting began, and 6 months before there were enough votes in Congress to sign the Declaration of Independence. In the preface of Common Sense, Paine addresses the cognitive dissonance of the reader in stating quite beautifully, time makes more converts than reason. And the more time that people have to feel the burden of our current monetary system may have more converts. And at the same time, we still should be giving our sharpest voice. Howard Zinn, raise your hand if you know who Howard Zinn is. Yeah. All right, very powerful, probably the best known and most sold historian. When asked, what should we do about the current situation with our constitutional rights being stripped and this war? Zinn was one of the leading protesters of the Vietnam War, and Zinn simply said two things. One, know your facts and back them up. Two, speak with your sharpest voice possible because lives are at stake. Paine also wrote Agrarian Justice. I'm trying to think if I want to say anything more about Common Sense. Nothing comes to mind, so I'll go on to Agrarian Justice. And yes.
I put it on the internet.
Oh, good for you. Thank you. People who follow Henry George support that with a land value tax. And his proposal was based upon a couple of philosophical premises. One is that we all should have equal access to the rights of the land. And his supporting quote with that is that man did not make the earth. And though he had a natural right to occupy it, he had no right to locate as his property in perpetuity any part of it. Neither did the creator of the earth open a land office from which the first title deed should issue. He coined the phrase, possession is 9/10 of the law, but he didn't mean it how we look at it. What he meant is that 1/10 of the value of the land that is owned and improved should be returned to the public as rent for their privilege of the ownership of the land, and that should be passed on as an inheritance tax. He also made a very strong philosophical statement that it's in all of our best interests to move towards a more equitable economic philosophy. And he wrote eloquently, the contrast of affluence and wretchedness continually meeting and offending the eye is like dead and living bodies chained together. I care not how affluent some may be, provided that none be miserable in consequence of it. But it is impossible to enjoy affluence with the felicity it is capable of being enjoyed, while so much misery is mingled in the scene. He also stated that the most affluent and the most miserable of the human race are to be found in the countries that are called civilized, and that it is not at all clear whether what we refer to as civilization has most promoted or most injured the general happiness of man. On one side, the spectator is dazzled by the splendid appearances. On the other, he is shocked by extremes of wretchedness. And I think his words still speak to us over 200 years later. You know, I thought I was going to require a lot more time to say what I needed to say, but I'm done.